Well, I was going to ask somebody to do a family on mission testimony, and then I thought, hold on, I have a family on mission testimony. I should be the one to give it. So we talked for months about being a family on mission, and that's what the church is, Big C Church, right? It's not an organization, it's not a corporation, it's not a 501c3, it's not a building. It's a family on mission together. And we've been getting testimonies. So for me, Pastor Eric and I, just got back yesterday from 5 days in Montana, which is a wonderful little retreat for just the two of us, which is not that easy to do because we have 3 small children. And we've made it happen every year, but it's always been very tricky. So this last week, the way we were able to get away is because of some wonderful people who joined together and were family to us. And I'm just going to ask everyone who watched our children or transported them from Tuesday to Saturday of this week, will you please stand up? Including Jake in the back and Joe, who's not here. He's out of town tonight. So, think about how many people it takes to make life work. Just for us. You know what I'm saying? Just for us, it took all these people that you saw stand up. There was a very intricate schedule and meal planning and 1,000 different things. And guess what, guys? They didn't call us a single time. And people were like, have you checked in on your kids? We're like, nope. Because if they're not calling us, we're good. Of course they always have a blast. They never want to talk to us when we're away. They've lived as part of Oikos for a while. So they're like, who's hanging out with us today? They're super excited. We were very happy to come back together as a family when we got home, but I am so thankful. I cannot even tell you. God was amazing at this retreat to us. Half of the day was huddles and teaching and digging into rhythms as families, because it was all couples. There were 30 people there, and they were all people who speak our language, and they're all scattered, and, one's a church planter in Compton, and other's a Lutheran pastor in, rural whatever. And we all speak the same language. We encourage each other. There was one guy there who had a church of 1,500. You never knew it the whole week. That's not what we're used to. What we're used to is it. When somebody walks in, how successful they are, how aloof they are, they've attained something. And it was not like that at all. It was amazing. Right on the lake, all afternoon and evening, we just got to rest and take kayaks out or do whatever we wanted. And since the retreat was on rhythms of rest, of abiding and fruitfulness, it was beautiful. And I led one of the huddles, one of the 4, and people's lives were changed in every one of those. And so I know it sounds crazy, but just imagine you guys were part of fruit that's happening in places all over the country now because of being able to be filled up because we got to go. Isn't that cool? That's how family works. So, and everything else. And just for us to be full, to be able to come back and do our thing here. Of course, we're leaving again this week, but we'll be back again. Taking full advantage of these interns. And so what we have been talking about with that is Oikos. And amazingly, I have this handy-dandy illustrative tool that I just received for my birthday, 10 minutes before service started. Oikos. See, it's not the first initial of the word. I was really dense, but the oikos runs right through the middle. And it says honor, promise, kingdom, hope, and respect. And that's something that the Shells did I'm like, I love this stuff. And Missy's like, I know. I don't want no jewelry. I want something awesome. Oh, I like the jewelry too. But, Oikos is the New Testament word for family. And of course, we know that means extended family, different than how we do it here. And so I'm just so thankful to be a part of one, not just here, but all over the place. And we got to spend time with extended family this week, and are really happy to be back with you. So awesome testimony. And I know it keeps happening because had we not had the interns, there are a dozen people in this room who would have gladly and happily taken responsibility for us to be able to do that too. So there's just no end to the awesomeness of this community. And if you're new and you don't really know us yet, I can promise you it's real. It's not perfect, but it is real. So if you want to be a part of it, if you want to stay on the outside, you can. Nobody will force you. But if you want to come in closer, it's really a real family, and it's pretty awesome. And we call each other out on crap. We do. But we also encourage and spend time and go hiking and all the things that family does. So sorry, I had to do the big reveal before I started. I know that was probably a little distracting as you were doing announcements, Asa, but you did a lovely job in spite of everybody going, why is that guy standing around in his underwear? Because of the computer. Thank you. Well, I have been really excited about a particular sermon that I specifically wanted to preach tonight because this is the first Sunday night of the month and we get to pray after. And that's not to say that we don't always get to pray, but usually because of the constraints of our space, we stop service at a certain time and we all hang out and we have coffee and we meet everybody who's new and we go somewhere and do something fun. And we'll do that again next week and the next 3 weeks. But on the first Sunday night of the month, we set aside to just kind of have a really gentle, soft close, allow people to leave if they want, but lean into prayer. And so what I wanted to talk about tonight, when we have this opportunity afterwards to dig into prayer, the last night that we'll be on this theme of a spirit-filled life. We started it on Pentecost Sunday. We've talked about hearing the voice of God. We've talked about being empowered for mission and witness. Last week we talked about dreaming big, but dreaming for God and not for ourselves. And this week I want to talk about being clothed with power from on high. When I was thinking about it, I immediately thought of this bedtime story. Want to give a guess? The Emperor's New Groove. No, new clothing. Okay. Well, let me tell you the story in a half a second in case you did not hear this growing up. Most of Hans Christian Andersen's stories are terrifying to children, so you don't really read them completely, direct. You kind of like make up things and use euphemisms because what? But this one is pretty easy. So there was this emperor, as the story tells, who was very, very vain. So vain that he would spend all day, every day in his dressing chamber trying on clothes and trying to look nice. A couple swindlers come into town and realize they can capitalize on this guy's vanity and make a little money. So they tell him that they can make this amazing suit of clothing for him. It's the most beautiful thing anyone's never seen before. And all he has to do is pay them. And the beautiful thing of it is that anyone who's not super smart or really dignified or super classy will not be able to see these clothes. And so he likes this idea. He thinks, now I can tell who should be like in my cabinet, of leaders and stuff like this. And so he's like, sold, gives them all the gold. They get to work. Well, really, they're not doing anything, right? We know this. They've just got looms for weaving sitting there and are twiddling their thumbs or playing Xbox or whatever during the day. So he sends all these people to check on them. And when they come in, they see there's nothing there, but they're ashamed because they think, oh, great, I can't tell anybody that, or they're going to think I'm dumb. And it really matters what people think. So I'm just going to say I see it and it's beautiful. So he keeps getting all these reports that it's awesome. He goes and checks, same thing. There's nothing there, but he pretends. And eventually ends up walking down the street in his boxers, right? But he thinks he's dressed like that, which is amazing what the mind can do, right? He doesn't see anything, but he didn't want to be the dumb guy, and so he pretends the whole time. Even as he's walking down the street in this parade, everybody's going along with it because they don't want to be the one who's not smart enough to be able to see. And the person who calls it out is a child because children don't know how to be pretentious until we teach them, right? They don't know how to do anything but tell the brutal, really honest truth, sometimes in very bad situations with bad repercussions, you know what I'm saying? But all they know how to do is tell the truth. And so a child points out he's not wearing anything, kind of breaks the whole charade. And it's just a story about caring what other people think. But it's also a story about pretending. And when I think about being clothed with power from on high, and I look around at the world, at the Christian world, at the American Christian world, I just wonder sometimes if we're not kind of trapped in the same thing, of looking in the mirror and thinking, sure, yeah, I guess I got that down. Like we don't. We're standing there in our boxers with nothing, with no clothing, if we're not clothed with this power from God. So we're going to kind of dig into it a little bit tonight and then see what he wants to say to us during prayer. Luke 24:49 says, I am going to send you what my Father has promised, but stay in the city until you have been clothed with power from on high. This is Jesus speaking to his disciples. I'm going to give you what was promised if you stay here and wait. Do not go out and do stuff. London, we've got that moving? The PowerPoint's working? Okay. Now, imagine what they thought this power would be. I don't know what they were thinking. If it was like some sort of political power, if finally, now that Jesus has come and has been resurrected and exalted to the right hand of the Father, they're going to get to like take over stuff and lead stuff and be in charge of stuff. Who knows? I can almost guarantee you they didn't expect what happened in Acts 2 on the day of Pentecost, because there's no precedent. There's some biblical background that made it make sense, but there's really no precedent for it at all. I don't know what they thought, but I do know that they at least obeyed because they knew Jesus knows what he's talking about, so we probably shouldn't go do this thing that we feel called to do without this power that he's talking about. Now, I want you to think for just a second. Last week I preached about dreaming, and I'm sure all of you take those sermon notes home and pore over them all week long and pray every day to see what the Lord is saying. But even if you didn't, and you just remember, last Sunday she preached about something about dreaming, just imagine whatever your dream is. Hopefully you have been exercising your dreams. Again, not for us, for the kingdom of God. And think about what the biggest dream is that you can imagine. And then remember, there's an enemy of our souls who is actively, constantly opposing us. And now ask yourself, what is actually required to accomplish that? More than what we have on a day-to-day basis. Because let me just tell you something. Satan has way more power than we do on our own. We're not awesome superheroes by ourselves. With the Spirit of God in us, amazing, and always in victory. But when we try to do things in our own power, there's not a whole lot to it. So think about that dream, and let's ask the Lord, am I clothed with the kind of power that it's going to take to accomplish what you want me to do in your kingdom? Let's go to John 14. This is good stuff. John talks about the Spirit in a different way than any of the other three gospel writers. In fact, he talks about a lot of things in a different way, which is why Matthew, Mark, and Luke are called the synoptic gospels, which means they're kind of similar in how they tell things historically. John starts, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word, where they're like, there was a dude, and his name was so-and-so, and here's all his children, That John is a little different than the others, much more theological in how he comes about it. He probably writes it way older. He's probably way older when he writes it. Of course, we know he's the only disciple, according to church history, who's not martyred. So he's probably writing this old, exiled at the end of his life. And so he looks at things through a different lens. And I want to just look at what he says about the Spirit in John 14. So people are asking questions to Jesus, and he responds to one of his disciples, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. If you had really known me, you would know who my Father is. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Philip said, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. Jesus replied, have I been with you all this time, Philip, and yet you still don't know who I am? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. So why are you asking me to show him to you? Don't you believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words I speak are not my own, but my Father who lives in me does his work through me. Just believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, or at least believe because of the work you've seen me do. I tell you the truth, anyone who believes in me will do the same works I have done, and even greater works, because I am going to be with the Father. You can ask for anything in my name, and I will do it, so that the Son can bring glory to the Father. Yes, ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. Wow. That is some serious covenant and kingdom language. And just to remind you what I mean by that, we're just going to throw it up here so you can see what covenant is about and what kingdom is about. Covenant is about being. Oh, bummer. Jacob, where's Jacob? Just stay back there and see if we can get it moving. Because some of this stuff is so helpful if you can kind of see it on the screen. Covenant is all about being, and kingdom is all about doing. All right? So covenant is about being in relationship, and kingdom is all about our responsibility. Have you ever noticed in the Bible, people have these wars about we're human beings, not human doings. We keep having to tell ourselves this as Americans because we stink at being, right? We're really good at doing, really bad at being. But the truth is we're really created for both. We're created for being and we're created for doing. Through relationship and through responsibility, we see covenant and we see kingdom. Covenant is all about the table. We're just inviting people to the table and saying, hey, we've got room here for you to sit at this meal and enjoy fellowship and relationship. And kingdom is about the task at hand. So now that we've sat and had our fill, let's go out and do the work. Covenant is where in covenant God is Father. That's who he is to us in covenant. He's Abba, which in the Aramaic at the Lord's Prayer actually means daddy. Very personal, intimate term. He is our Father. He is our daddy. He is our comforter. He is intimate. He cares about us, all this stuff. And when we think about kingdom, God is king. That's true too, right? Kind of like the Father that we love and wrestle with, but when we go to work with him, we're like, whoa, you're awesome, except like 80,000 cajillion times bigger than that when we talk about God. He is king of everything. Covenant is all about me being his child. That's all I am. That's all I need to be. I am just a child of God. And kingdom is about being a representative or steward of his kingdom. So you'll notice in a lot of Jesus' parables, he says there was a master and he had a steward. He had someone who cared for the land or cared for the thing that he owned, and that steward was responsible to do certain things to take care of the things that the king or the master left him in charge of. If he wasn't a very good steward, he didn't get paid, or he didn't get money, or guess what? He got thrown into jail at the end when someone came back and said, what'd you do with my stuff? It wasn't his stuff. It wasn't the steward's stuff. It was the king's stuff or the master's stuff. They were just entrusted with it, and at the end of it, asked what they did with it. Does that sound like what's going to happen at the end of time when we stand before Jesus and he says, what'd you do with my stuff? What'd you do with my children? What'd you do with my time? What'd you do with my money? What'd you do with the earth? What'd you do with all the stuff that I entrusted to you for a time? Now it's time to give it back. And what we do is important. I mean, the whole Bible is full of stuff of what we do. The deal is we can't draw our identity from what we do. Identity always comes from covenant. Because if it comes from what we do, we're going to be zipping in and out of the kingdom of God like crazy. Because I don't know about you, but I repent a bunch. I do. I wish I didn't have to. Maybe one day I won't as much. But truthfully, I'm not always the way I should be. I'm not always doing the things that I should be doing. Because the Spirit of God is still doing work in me. But I don't have to worry about leaving his family just because today I messed something up. So our identity of being children is where we have to find this. And out of that, when I look at my father and I say, man, thank you. Thank you for letting me into your family. This is an awesome family. This is super great. I have everything I would ever have need of. And in fact, a whole bunch of stuff that I just want and makes me happy that I really don't need at all. You've lavished all of this on me. And he says, that's great. Now go out in the family business and go do some work and represent me to the world. Otherwise, when we got saved, we'd all be gone, right? We know this. We are family on mission. That's covenant and kingdom. So let's go back and look through it with this covenant and kingdom language. Because unless we grab onto both of it, we're not even going to seek being clothed with power from on high. In verse 6, Jesus told him, now watch all the places that talk about covenant. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. If you had really known me, that's covenant language, you would know who my Father is. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. It's like, don't skip on to the doing stuff until you know me. Because it's not going to go well, or nothing's going to happen if you don't know Jesus. And Jesus shows the way to the Father. Philip says, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. And Jesus says, I've been with you all this time, Philip. I'm with you. That's covenant language. I'm just being with you, and yet you still don't know who I am? Anyone who's seen me has seen the Father. So why are you asking me to show him to you? Don't you believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? He says, if you've seen me, you've seen him. And in fact, if you've seen me, you've kind of seen the Spirit. Because this Godhead or God family, which is so unbelievably unified that they are one, when you see one, you see another because they always act in community and in unison. It is God, one God, right? But three persons, it's super confusing. I've taken 1,000 classes on this and nobody really knows how to talk about it. The Trinity is this mystery that still people can't wrap their heads around, but it's real. It's that way. And if God were something that were explainable, it'd be weird. I'm not sure I'd want to serve him, right? So we don't completely know, but what we do know is when we see Jesus, we see the Father. And when we see the works that Jesus does, we see the Spirit. So then he switches off to kingdom language. The words I speak are not my own, but my Father who lives in me does his work through me. Just believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe because of the work you've seen me do. Now he's saying because of the kingdom stuff I've done, you can draw some parallels to the covenant that I have. I tell you the truth, anyone who believes in me will do the same works I have done, and even greater works, because I'm going to be with the Father. You can ask for anything in my name, and I will do it, so that the Son can bring glory to the Father. Yes, ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. That's powerful stuff, right? I mean, I don't know how many times you've read these scriptures, but it's easy to read through and be like, oh, I can ask for anything, and Jesus will do it. Sweet. Today I'll ask for a really nice day and a good night's sleep. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm not sure that's what he was talking about. He says, you'll do the works I have done. You know what Jesus was doing? healing folks, raising people from the dead, doing crazy miracles, extraordinary miracles. Like, how extraordinary does a miracle actually have to be classified in that level? You know, it's not enough to say it's a miracle. It's extraordinary. That's what the Bible says the apostles were doing, who are following in his footsteps. That's what Jesus was doing. And he says, you will do the same works that I'm doing, and even greater. Now, qualitatively, there's no greater, really, right? He's just saying, once I go to be with God, this is going to work out well for you and for the world, because the Spirit's going to come live inside you. And when the Spirit overflows out of you, there's going to be this stuff happening everywhere. And when Jesus was around, it started off just coming through him. So there's one point geographically in the whole earth that God is, he's doing it for his glory, to show that he's the Son of God, etc. But once Jesus goes back, even before that, the apostles are doing miracles. He's like, the Spirit is going to come, and the Spirit lived inside of them when he breathed on them, when they came to faith, right? But there was something else, and their salvation was set. Their covenant was set, but there was something else. Remember, we talked about this on Pentecost Sunday. There was something in addition to that he said, even though you know me, and even though you've seen me, I don't want you to leave this place until you've been clothed with power. Because the places I'm going to send you to do stuff, you're not just going to cruise in there and cruise out. You need to have the power of God in you, overflowing out of you, to see something happen in these places where I'm sending you. It wasn't an issue of salvation. Their covenant was okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes when we talk about the Spirit, it gets really confusing to people. They think I'm saying they're not saved if they haven't been filled with the Holy Spirit. That's not it. But Jesus clearly thought it was really important, because he didn't want them to leave until it was done. So back to this covenant and kingdom language, just to show you again. Being leads to doing. Being in a relationship leads us to responsibility and representation. Being at the table leads us out to the task. You see how it works? Can't start with one and go the other way. It doesn't work. You don't move to God through doing. We have to know him. And then he says, oh, this is great. Now I can trust you with the keys to the kingdom. Which is crazy. I didn't ask for the keys of the kingdom. I just want to be with God. You know what I'm saying? I just want to be saved and have joy and love God that I loved. And he said, yeah. That is amazing. That's a bunch of stuff. But, there's this other part of it too, which is there's a whole lot of people, 96% of our county, who don't know me. So there's still a little bit of work to do. When we talk about work, we talk about doing, it's all kingdom stuff, and it's really important. What are we clothed with? That's the question. What are we clothed with? We might look in the mirror and see something in front of us that's not real. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to look at yourself and be like, I don't think I have any clothes on. What am I doing? I'm stepping outside. I've done that in so many different areas of my life. It's painful. It's hard. It's so humbling. But that's the point. Because until we see what we don't have, we won't ask God for more. I don't see people, Book of Acts talks about Peter walking down the street and his shadow falling on people and them getting healed. We talk about unconscious competence. That's like as unconscious as you can get. He doesn't even know what's happening. He's just walking down the street. I'm not seeing that in my life. Somehow or another, we convince ourselves, and we've convinced people in the church, and the leadership, the ministers in the church are the worst, because we're not seeing it in our own lives. We say, you know what, let's just pretend that we don't need any of this. Let's just be super smart and really dignified and pump ourselves up with intellectual capital to such a degree that we actually think it's spiritual capital. We actually convince ourselves that it's the same thing. We don't need God's power anymore. We don't need him to do miracles anymore, because we know the answers to what everybody's saying, because we have 2,000 years of history behind us now. Sweet, that's helpful. It's really, really great. But that's not everything. That's not all of it. If it were, Jesus would have said, hey, you guys are awesome. Go do stuff. He said, wait until you are clothed. A disciple is someone who does the things Jesus did for the reasons he did them. Think about it for a second. What are the things Jesus did? Do I do those things? Now, we've talked a lot about covenant. We talk about it all the time. So we talk about loving people. We talk about serving people. I don't think we really, as a community, ever stop. I mean, that testimony I told before is one of 10 that I could pull out from the last couple months of how you guys have loved us and served us. But there's another side to this that we cannot ignore. And every time we talk about kingdom, we have to bring it up, that Jesus did other stuff too. He preached the word. And I don't just mean like underground by osmosis, if after 3 years a coworker maybe kind of asks us, what it is we do on Sunday nights, we finally tell him. I mean, he said what he was about. He talked about why he was there. He spread the kingdom. Covenant is the motives and kingdom is the action. If we are doing the things Jesus did, which is kingdom, for the reasons he did them, which is covenant, because remember, we can do a whole lot of flashy things, a whole lot of authority, power things, without knowing him. Now we're in trouble. We're not talking about that. We're talking about having the reasons that Jesus did things and still doing the things he did. Let's look at the covenant triangle. So some of this is review for some of you guys, but some people are newish, so we'll look at it. So in covenant, we connect with the Father. The Father leads us into our identity. And by that, he says, you are now my child, so now I know who I am. Okay? I don't have to doubt it. I don't have to wonder about it. It's great to get more specific words about that, but I know ultimately I am a child of God. That is who I am. I'm not anything else that I ever used to be. It's beautiful and glorious and amazing, and we can't live without that identity. And as we live out our identity, we obey. Right? Now, we know that if the way that we have to go is from the Father to identity to obedience. To get from the Father to identity requires faith. Because we have to believe when he says we are who we are. And to get from identity out to obedience requires submission. And by that, it means, okay, I know who I am now, but now I have to obey? Can we just stay with like the identity part? That's super awesome. I just sit and write journals for the rest of my life about who God has told me I am. This is amazing. No. Then we have to obey, right? And obedience only comes through submission. Now, if we try to go the other way with it, if we try to go, if you can, let's go back to the covenant triangle. It's a few before. If we try to go from obedience to the Father, guess what that's called? Legalism. Now we're trying to earn it through what we do. Because we obey, we're trying to go up to God. That's not the way it works. We have to first have God download into us who we are, and out of that we obey. There's no other way to do it that pleases God. Read through Galatians, which we are reading through right now in the Moravian text, and Paul has scathing words for people who think they can earn their way to God. That's what it looks like when we go from obedience to the Father. We have to go into who he says we are and then just live it out. Now, in the kingdom side, that up dimension is the king, and the king leads us into authority, and the authority leads us out into power. I'm sorry, Lyndon, it's totally not his fault. I don't know what's going on up there. But just bear with me. We'll figure it out. It'll pop up here right at the end and make it all come together. So the king gives us our authority. Think about it for a second. If you're a son or a daughter of a king, you got some authority. You walk into a village somewhere, and they're like, you're not the king. I'm like, yeah, but I'm his kid, so it's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't really do much if we don't have any power to act on the authority that we have. And so that in the same way, to go from the king to authority, we have to have faith. Because for me to believe that the king of the universe has given me authority, has gifted it to me. You know, Jesus says in Matthew 28, all authority on heaven and on earth has been given to me. And then he says, now go make disciples of all nations. But we forget, there's this like little parenthetical thing that should be in there. It's just, we don't understand how rabbinic culture works, so we need it. They didn't need it in this day. Basically, right in the middle of that, you could put, and now I'm giving it to you. Because you're my disciples, and disciples always receive the authority that the rabbi had. So all the authority in the world, under the world, above the world has been given to me, and I give it to you. Now go make disciples. See that? Authority is really necessary. Because if I just bop up in here and say, if I, stick one of those awesome like little sirens on top of my car, and it goes, and I pull you over, and I'm like, ticket, $55. You were going over the speed limit. They're going to be like, who are you? You have no authority to be doing that. You're not representing anybody who has authority. Get out of my face. Even if I have a gun, even if I have the power, if it's not through the authority, it's ridiculous. You're never going to follow it. But when we go from the king through faith into authority, and then from authority we live out power, guess how? Oh, that dirty, dirty, dirty S word. Submission. Oh, so hard. I wish it were through faith, Because faith, sometimes I'm like, I know the authority. I got to go live out power. I got to build up my faith. You know what? I already got faith for the authority. I already know who I am. Now I've just got to submit, which is super hard. So hard to submit. Submit to one another, the Bible says in Ephesians 5:21. Submit to the Lord. Ask him, what is it that you're doing? Where can I find it? And how can I inject myself into it so I can be a part of what you're doing? That's the point. Not to sit around and say, I would love this for my life. So God, please do that. You know how much of our prayers are circle around that stuff? God, please do the thing that I need you and want you to do. It's okay to ask for our needs. That's in Matthew 6, the Lord's Prayer. We get it. But not to just be sitting around saying, I'm dreaming big. For me. Come on, God, come through. But to say, where are you already at work? Because I can promise you the Spirit's at work, because that's what he does. I don't know that he's ever just sat around doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? He's at work somewhere. We just have to figure out where it is. And guess what it requires? Submission. Now, if we try to go from power to the king, that's ugly business. You know what that's called? Spiritual abuse. I don't know if you've ever faced this head on. I have seen it rear its nasty, ugly head too many times. What that means is because I'm powerful, because I'm big, because I can control, I'm going to go up to God with that. You know what? The king doesn't need to be proven of our, you know what I'm saying? Like we're not going to prove anything to him or to the world around us going that direction. We have to go first through the authority that he hands to us, that he gifts to us, that he gives to us. We have to believe it, and then we have to go walk it out in power. That's the only way it comes. I want to be clothed with power from on high. That means I've got to, by faith, believe in the authority that God has already given me. He doesn't have to give it to me anymore. I might have to believe it more, but all the authority is there. There's no varying degree of authority in people's lives. There might be a varying degree of how much we believe it. I've been in... Guys, I grew up Pentecostal, and I've grown up in charismatic circles where this stuff gets crazy. You've got that much, it's like on a scale of 1 to 10. Oh my gosh. You know what? We're all children of God, which means we all have the same authority. We all have the same authority. We might not all have the same power, but that's because some of us don't know how to submit to that authority. It's not the authority that's the problem unless we haven't had the faith to exercise to believe it. It's the submission. It's waiting. And then saying, I don't have what I need to have, and not making excuses and pretending that we're clothed with this beautiful garment when really we're standing there waiting still. There's no shame in it. There's no shame in not having the power of God the way we want to. You know that? There's only shame in pretending. And then walking away and saying, we don't need that because we're so smart, because we're so good. This is where people from the U.S. go overseas. We have a lot of intellectual capital to give. I mean, we were supposed to go to India in a few weeks. It's not happening. I cannot tell you how heartbreaking that was for me, but it's just a visa thing. You know, can't get around it. And Raj was asking, can you do this? Can you do this? We'll have 200 women there who can be encouraged in their covenant relationship with the Lord, which I was all about. We'll have 100 pastors there. I'm like, these pastors have been in prison for their faith. Who am I? I don't have any spiritual capital to give. Are you kidding me? I just want to get around them and be around them, and maybe some of it will leak onto me. You know what I'm saying? How to pray really and how to sacrifice. But the intellectual capital is useful, right? So as long as I go and invest what I can go sit with the orphans in that orphanage and love on them, sure. And bring them some teddy bears they can't get. I can give financial capital. I can give physical capital. I can give relational capital. I can give intellectual capital. But I am not about to teach them spiritual capital. That's what I need from them. And that's okay. I don't have to be ashamed about that. I just need to grow. I just need to be humble enough to say, I am not where I want to be. I am not doing all the things Jesus did for the reasons he did them. I am his disciple and I'm working on it, but I'm not there yet. I don't know if anybody is with me, but seriously, I just want to see God's kingdom come to earth the way it is in heaven. I don't want to just keep piddling around and saying, it's okay, it's fine. Had a good conversation. I mean, there's nothing wrong with good conversations. Maybe that's what the Lord had to do that day, but okay, I got to stop that. Luke 5:36-37. Amazed the people exclaimed, what authority and power this man's words possess. Let's talk about Jesus. Even evil spirits obey him, and they flee at his command. The news about Jesus spread through every village in the entire region. What authority and power. And we sing, I want to be like you, Jesus. You know, I don't know, I just made that one up, but I'm sure it's somewhere. I want to be like Jesus. Yeah, I want to be like Jesus when he's like awesome rock star. I'm not sure I want to be like Jesus when he's like bloody heading to a cross. flesh torn, Then we're like, skip it. Fast forward. Can I get to the part where he ascends to heaven? That would be sweet. I don't know what it looks like for us. I don't know what this journey looks like for us in Summit County. We've been at it for 9.5 years. It changes every day. But I know if I want to be like Jesus, I've got to follow him everywhere he goes. And sometimes that is in a boat teaching. And sometimes that is loving, touching a leper. Get it? Not just speaking, but touching. Sometimes it's walking on the water. And if that's off the charts for me, that's, okay, I can do those other things. I can love, I can teach, I can give all these other capitals. But no, God, there's no way you can ever use me in anything powerful. Then I can't follow him into those places. And don't we want to be with him wherever he is? We're not trying to show off, Bob Ronglian, which some of you guys have met, I just got to spend a week with him, which was awesome. Amazing mentor. He also wrote some books. And one of them is called A Jesus-Shaped Life. And he says this: in historical terms, a kingdom is the territory where the king's authority is recognized and his power is effective. Now, I would say, where's God's territory? All over the place, right? A kingdom is quite simply everywhere the king's will is enacted. Extending the reign of God on earth by representing him is our divine purpose. So if you ever wanted to know what your purpose is in life, it's that. Sons and daughters of the king are given royal authority. This authority gives us access to the power required to carry out the king's orders. So we're given authority because the king says, go do this, and I sit there sometimes and say, oh yeah, I can't do that one. And I have to find somebody else for that one. Is Reinhard Bonnke available? Heidi Baker? Give her a call. I'm not really sure you can use me in that. And yet he's saying, you have the same authority. You're a son or a daughter just like anybody else. So it's not up to him calling on someone else. It's up to him calling on me and me submitting myself to his will and saying, I might look foolish because maybe my faith is not to the level where I can actually pray for someone and they would be healed of some huge thing. But I am going to ask him to because it is all about him and not about me. And we're going to see what he wants to do. The way we see Jesus living out kingdom power, here's a couple of them. Prophecy, healing, deliverance. Deliverance is people who had demons and them coming out and no longer being in people. And other miracles, assorted. Raised people from the dead, did some other stuff, turned water into wine, etc. So that's some of the ways Jesus walked in power. I don't know if he wants to use us in any, but if we're going to do the things he did, maybe. Are there any on there that you would say, nope, Jesus, just take that one right off the list, I'm not doing that? Probably not. Most of us are probably like, that would be awesome, but have you seen me lately? See my devotional life? It's abhorrent. Have you seen kind of how I can talk when I get angry? God can't use me in that stuff. God can use us in that stuff. Because it's not about us, it's about him. Now, the better we are at covenant and looking like him, the better we will represent him. So it is really important that we keep working on that stuff. But he will use anybody. And I've seen, again, because I've been charismatic circles part of my life, he will use anybody. I mean, sometimes it's like, is that guy even saved? Yeah, okay, just by 30 seconds. Because when my friends were here preaching, you remember what Rachel Ross said? A girl got healed, then got saved, then turned around and practiced on her friend who got healed. 30 seconds after she came to the Lord. She has been given the same authority as someone who's been walking with Christ for 15 years. She just happened to believe that he could use her in power probably more readily than I would have. Because she hasn't been given so many excuses of why it couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, and why I'm still okay. Pat, Leila, it's okay. Don't feel bad about yourself. I don't feel bad about myself, but seriously. Jesus had both things nailed down. He had covenant and he had kingdom. And he wanted us to as well. Kingdom without covenant is nasty, ugly business. And it's not effective. It's doing without any of the being. It's working hard and bearing fruit without being connected to the vine. And there's not very long that you can bear anything when you're not connected to the vine. Right? That's John 15. Covenant without kingdom is like, I'm so grateful I have God in my life now. This is amazing. I can live like this forever. Kumbaya, right? And never noticing that 96% of our county is going to hell, and maybe there's something that we're supposed to do about it. And there may be someone who's never going to listen to our explanation of the gospel until their mama gets healed. You know? I mean, this happened all the time in the New Testament. We talk about forms of evangelism. This is one of them. Power. It's a big one. We're like, nah, Africa. Go do it in Africa. In Middle East, they're having epiphanies. You know how? Somebody believed, and we can do that too. So, we're gonna process this in a moment as we spend time in prayer. And I just want you to put up the thing with the triangles just to show us the connection between these things, okay? So the Father, who's also the King, just two sides of God, the very close, intimate part and the faraway, massive, majestic, holy part. The one who is judge, the one who doesn't put up with our junk beyond a certain point. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something about wrath and like stuff that's not like so, like we just want to curl up with the grace part, but there's both. Our identity is our authority. That is where our authority comes from, knowing who we are. And that might be tonight what you need to sit with the Lord about. Because maybe you say, I don't see any kind of power for my life, but I think maybe I need to back it up a notch and really ask him, do I know who I am? I don't believe it because this week I screwed up. Or I'm always screwing up. Or nobody ever told me I could amount to anything and I'm still having a hard time believing it. Or whatever it is. We have to go to him and we have to let him inform who we are. When we say, I am blank, whatever goes in that blank better be spoken by the Father and nobody else. Not even ourselves. We cannot mix up covenant and kingdom. I am not what I do. I am not a pastor. I mean, that's a role that I have, right? I don't even say I'm a mother in the covenant sense, because that's a role. It's the most important role that I have, but it's still a role, because if I put my identity in that, if I anchor my identity to that, what happens if something happens to my kids? Or if they really screw up their lives? You know what I'm saying? It happens. And people fall apart because they've based their identity on something that God hasn't said. This is who you are, Leila. 3 words, probably over the whole course of my life, that are that meaningful that I can stand on. It is not about what we do, because next month we might be doing something completely different. We have to be able to stand on who we are. Or it could be we haven't learned how to submit. Maybe we've learned how to be authoritative, but we haven't learned how to submit. And when we don't see power in our lives, it's the obedience piece. We've got to obey. And for so many of us, we've just got to practice. We've just got to try. We've just got to sit with the Lord and say, do you have a picture? Do you have a word? Do you have something for that person? Remember, they're the one that receives the spiritual gift, not me. I don't receive the spiritual gift. They receive the gift of healing, right? We always put it on God's glory and other people receiving what they need. And then we never get full of ourselves, but we can still believe him for things. That's the trick, right? There's 2 ditches. Really easy to fall in. But guess what? We're not going to let each other, right? Because we're family and we're on mission together. And we're going to look at the other person and be like, what? Who do you think you are? It's about Jesus, man. Pipe down a notch. Somewhere along the way you forgot the power is not from you. You're not the king. Or we'll say, hey, there's a lot in you right now. Let's face what it is that's holding you back. Is it fear? Most of the time it is. Of what? People? People are not going to be standing with us when we stand before Jesus. Whatever it is, we're bringing it to the Lord tonight and saying, God, show me what I'm clothed with, really. Maybe we've got a little bit of it on, you know? Maybe we've got like a sleeve on. That's okay. There's a whole outfit, apparently. Being clothed with power from on high. I don't know what it looks like, but there's something about it, right? He doesn't want us to go out naked thinking, because the enemy can see us. Jesus can see us for what we are. And he sees a son or a daughter, that's great, but he wants to see us clothed. So Lord, we are asking you tonight to do what you want to do in us. There is no shame, there's no condemnation, because we are in you. We belong to you. We're your children. You don't look at us that way. You don't look at us ashamed, disappointed, like we're less than what you know we can be. You love us completely. And even if we never did anything, you would love us in that same way. But we are compelled to represent your kingdom because it is a good kingdom and you're a good father and a good king, and more people need to see it. And because people are hurting and people are sick and people are desperate and people are in bondage, and a good father wants to set his children free. And we get to be the brothers and sisters that are part of that. So thank you. Even though it terrifies us, even though it overwhelms us, even though it would be so much easier to just focus on the covenant stuff and never go over to the kingdom stuff and never expect more from ourselves, we are asking you, Lord, to help us. We need your help. We need your spirit to clothe us with power from on high. to remind us who we are tonight and what you want to do in our lives. Charles Finney said, there can be no revival when Mr. Amen and Mr. Wet Eyes are not found in the audience. And so, Lord, we want to repent, and we want to sit with you, and if nothing else, we're not pretending. We're going to keep seeking you. You said, ask, and you will answer, but really you said, keep on asking. Keep on seeking. Keep on knocking. Your kingdom is worth it. And so we're going to keep seeking it. We're going to keep knocking. We're going to keep asking.